Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and what a great show I have planned for tonight. But before I bring on my guest, who has an amazing Kickstarter, who I'm very excited to chat with because I love this series, let's just get some of the regular stuff out of the way. As you guys know, it is Wednesday, or as some of my friends call it, Wiz Day. Right? No, is that it? Wednesday? I don't know how they say Wiz Day. Anyway, at the Wiz Comic right there today, every Wednesday on Instagram and Facebook, and now starting this month in A Kid in a Comic newspaper. You'll be able to see the Wiz. Also, don't forget, go on to boldventurepress.com or amazon.com, and you can pick up Zorro's Swordplay and Romance, which I illustrated a story in here, and you can still get copies of Zorro's Exploits, which is still available, which I did 2 stories in, and the Whimsical Wiz collection, which I don't know where a copy of that book is right now. But anyway, let's bring on our guest. I'm really excited to talk with him. He is the man behind the Masters, and which by the way, man, amazing. You guys, we're gonna look at the Kickstarter. We're gonna talk about a lot of things. Let's bring on Austin Hough.
Hello. All right, guys. How are you? Good to see you, Michael.
You too. Thank you for coming on.
Oh, man. Thanks for having me. It's always great to see you, brother.
Yeah. Same here. Let me tell you, and I got to say, I am loving your Master series. It is, well, first of all, just as a story, it's fantastic.
Thank you.
But the tribute that you give throughout the book to the world of art, to the world of comics, is it just hits me right here. You know, man, yeah. I love it. It is so great.
Michael, homage is my middle name, buddy. Listen, when I came up with this idea, to do the Masters, and then the whole concept of recruiting all my favorite artists from my youth to participate, one of the things that you and I were talking about off stage right before we came on, were all of the artists that I squeezed in there somehow who are no longer with us. Like I would have given my right arm to have Dave Cockrum draw a cover for me, or Alex Toth, or Jim Aparo. Unfortunately, those guys left us. They all left us too soon, obviously, but I had to put them in there somewhere. Some ended up being characters. Some ended up having, names of places after them, like a detective agency or a deli.
Yeah.
So when I come out with the omnibus, which should be at the end of the year, one of the things I'm going to include in that package will be all of the Easter eggs and homages and tributes to everybody, every artist, every creator that was in some way, shape, or form involved in the project, whether it was in my own mind or actually in the book. Not to mention all of the breadcrumbs I left for all of the readers to figure out who the mastermind was behind the Masters.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm going to go back and reread everything I have because I don't think I was correct in my original thought.
Well, you shared that original thought off camera.
And I'm not going to share it
that way.
Yeah, I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
But yeah, I'll be honest. I think I'm wrong, but if I was right, I'm going to be very upset now.
Rule number 1 in comic books: always keep them guessing, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. Now, just so if this is the first time people are seeing you on a show, and I know you've done a bunch, and thank you for coming on here. Can you tell us a little bit about you, the Masters, how it got started, and where we are now with the Masters?
Yeah, I mean, I'll try to make it as brief as possible, the whole origin story of me and Power Comics and the Masters. But I am first and foremost a Mego action figure customizer. So I collect action figures from the 1970s, all produced by Mego, specifically the World's Greatest Hero line. Growing up, Mego never did all of the characters that I wanted to have done. They never did Dr. Doom or Lex Luthor or Daredevil or Hawkman or The Flash. So as I got older and found my collection in my mom and dad's attic, as you know, I was in my early 20s. The internet was, you know, in its infancy. I found a website called themigomuseum.com. There were all other people like me who wished that Mego had made other characters to fit into the line, and they were making their own. I looked at all their tutorials. I started making my own. 650 custom action figures later,
Wow.
I was running out of variants of Batman and Spider-Man and the Joker to make. So I just had this brainstorm, and I came up with this idea of these villains, these super villains, inspired by two things. Inspired by the villains from the old Adam West TV show, right? All those goofy, aloof, colorful, crazy, zany characters, you know, like Cesar Romero's Joker. And my favorite artists of the 20th century, like Salvador Dali and Ansel Adams and Toulouse-Lautrec. And I decided I'm going to make some action figures based on or inspired by these artists, and I'm going to give them super villain powers based on their arts. So I make these characters, and I go to put them online like I always do with my customs. And I'm thinking, I really can't do this. People are going to look at this and say, who the heck is this guy? It looks great, Austin, but who is it? So I had to come up with backstories. I had the backstories in my head, but I didn't have them down on paper to give to the world. When I did that, I looked at them and I thought, wow, I've got a really good idea for a comic book story. So I started fleshing that out. I put together a plot summary, and I devised the story. I came up with the story inspired by the old Brave and the Bold comic books of the 70s that Jim Aparo so beautifully drew, if you remember.
Yeah.
I took the whole idea behind this, and everything was going to be, you know, Batman and a guest star superhero fighting a bad guy. I had 5 bad guys. I have Batman, and I picked 5 superheroes from DC to fight different bad guys in different chapters. And then at the end, they were all going to do this big battle royale, and the superheroes were going to win because the superheroes always win. I took this idea to my good friend, Art Baltazar, who at the time was working for DC Comics. He's a world famous cartoonist. If you're not familiar with
I
Art.
know his work. I'm very big fan.
Great guy. Yeah. Huge fan. Right. He loved it. He loved the action figures. He loved the plot summary. And he was willing to introduce me to, at the time, Dan DiDio, the publisher of DC Comics. Mm-hmm. Well, suffice it to say, 2 weeks before C2E2 Chicago 2020, when I was supposed to be introduced to Dan by Art, Dan loses his job with DC. 2 weeks later, C2E2 happens, but then COVID hits, and everything is just up for grabs. I'm sitting around thinking, well, what do I do now? I've got this plot summary that a professional cartoonist thinks is great, but I don't have anywhere to go with it. His boss had been fired. He didn't know who he was supposed to report to, let alone tell me who I was supposed to go to.
Yeah.
So after much thought and reflection and speaking to friends and other people that I knew in the business, I decided that I was going to incorporate my own publishing company and self-publish. And you know what, man? 3 years later, here we are. We're concluding the Masters. Yep. It has been going brilliantly, not without its issues. Boy, oh boy, I tell you what. People warned me that this was going to be a tough road. Mm-hmm. You don't know the complications you're going to get into until you get in that car and start driving.
Yeah. Definitely. But you know what? You're creating a beautiful product. You have a great team behind you.
Thank you.
You want to talk a little bit about the team that is helping you bring this
absolutely.
to life?
The team has been amazing. So I decided that I was going to go, and I mean, it's kind of like go big or go home, right, Michael?
Yeah.
It's like, if this is going to be the only project I ever do, this is going to be the only opportunity, the only comic book series I get to publish, I'm going big or I'm going home. So I took the advice of my friend Michael Finn and started reaching out, emails, phone calls, whatever access I had to people. and saying, hey, would you like to be part of my project? I started with Joe Rubenstein. And if you're ever going to start a project and you want to get the word out to as many people as possible, Joe's the guy to call, man. Okay. I asked if the only reason why he couldn't be on the show with me tonight was because he was teaching class. Okay. So
No problem.
Yeah.
A lot of artists do, man.
Yeah.
Great.
But Joe knows everybody.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, Joe, I'm interested in you doing some work with me on this project. I know you're friends with Alan Weiss and Ron Wilson and Carrie Gamble. Do you think they might be interested in making some covers for me and you could ink them? Next thing I knew, I had people calling me, emailing me. I ended up with probably 45 different artists.
Wow.
Working on this project.
Yeah.
So, we go from, Joe, Alan, Ron, Carrie, Pat Broderick, Romeo Tunghal, Pablo Marcos. I was able to bring in Mike Grell, Ramona Fraden, Joe Staten. Alex Saviuk has been a huge player in this project. Val Merrick, Daryl Banks. This issue alone, we've got Bob Hall. And none of these guys need introductions, Michael.
Yeah.
Everybody watching today, I have no doubt they know who they are. You've got, we have issue 5, the last one, Bob Hall, Bart Sears, Tom Grummett, Doug Hazelwood, Jimmy Palmati, Stefan Roux, Butch Geis, and some more stuff from Joe Rubenstein. And then coming in on covers, we've got Daryl Banks, Alex Saviuk, Jeff Isherwood, Al Milgram, and Bob Budiansky and Joe Rubenstein again.
Wow.
It's an all-star cast.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those ensemble movies, like It's a Mad World, where every scene you get a new guy. It's like, Buster Keaton's in this movie? No way! Holy cow! There's the Three Stooges. Just a wonderful experience.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously you're a comic fan, so these guys were like your comic, heroes, if you will, like people that you read, you loved everything about them, and now to have them bring your stuff to life must have just been amazing to get pages.
It is amazing. I remember when I laid out my first full issue, even though it was just rough sketches on pages, I was able to lay out all of one particular issue, and I was like looking at it. It was all across. I have a pool table. It was all across my pool table, and I was just looking at it like, I've got a comic book, man. I have a comic book. And I'm going to tell you, the greatest thing about the guys that I have been able to bring into this project is that they are so competitive, Michael. They see, because I would, and it wasn't done deliberately by me, but it was kind of like it just happened. But these guys would say, oh, wow, Alan's pages look great. I guess I better, do something better. It was competition. Yeah. And all of a sudden, Tom would turn something in, and then Alex, and then Bob. I mean, it was just amazing. I think there are some guys on this book that I truly believe this is some of their best work. They weren't under crazy deadlines like they were in the 70s or 80s. They were free to use their, creativity, change things. And they would come to me and say, hey, I think we should do this, or I think we should do that, or let's change this around, or whatever. And the freedom that they had on this project, I think it comes out in their art. But there are some guys on this project, I look at their pages and I say, you know what, man, I don't think you've ever done anything better than this.
Yeah. I mean, listen, it's a beautiful, the books that I've read already are gorgeous. They are, going through the books, it's a throwback to, definitely a Bronze Age feel of comics. The storytelling, you're right. It kind of does have, in some parts, as that like Adam Westy, that Adam West kind of, the vibe, the vibe from the villains and everything. And
it was very Adam West show. I mean, I would call it schlocky.
Okay.
Very schlocky. And that's a compliment. I mean, it was a beautiful thing.
Yeah. And one of my favorite things about this book, and I'm looking at the Kickstarter when I turn my head, so I'm not just like ignoring it. It's on another monitor here. So like you chose to take the heroes instead of creating new heroes for this story. You took public domain
That's right.
characters who are, you know, open to the public. Anyone could use the same characters, just not your versions.
Correct.
But I thought that was great. I thought that was a fantastic idea, because you didn't have to sit and you know, kind of build a world, if you will, for all these other characters and heroes, which, you know, you mentioned earlier, you know, about DC Comics. You're going to talk to Dan. I get the feel looking at this that you're very much a DC guy with your work, and like all the characters take the place of what would have been like Superman or Batman or the Flash or whatever, you know, even Plastic Man. You have a take on here. So I like reading it. I was like, oh, if this was a DC comic, you know,
Right.
these are the heroes I'd be reading. But they're just so good.
Thanks.
So good the way you took them and put your own take on these. And I'm saying this as a public domain fan.
Yeah.
I draw a lot of public domain stuff for fun rather than publishing, but just like they're usually my go-to warm-up drawings are public domain
Nice.
characters. I'm one of these people that are all about use public domain. I'll push it for
Yeah.
you. I think that was so smart of you.
Yeah, well, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, there was a method to my madness. Mm-hmm. So the series is called The Masters. I named it after the villains because I think that for the most part, the superheroes in comic books tend to stay the same. I mean, Spider-Man's in every issue, but the reason why Spider-Man is such a great character is his rogues gallery. The same with Batman, the same with the Flash. I mean, I think a hero is really, he becomes great because of the greatness of his villains.
Yes.
So, and one of the things I always loved about the James Bond movies is that they were always named after the bad guy, like Dr. No or Goldfinger. It wasn't called James Bond 2. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
James Bond 36, Dr. No, Goldfinger, Octopussy. It was named after the bad guys. So I thought, you know what? I'm going to call this the villains because the emphasis is going to be on the villains.
Yeah.
But here was the quandary that I fell into after I wasn't able to approach DC with my idea. I had these villains facing off against Batman, Green Arrow, Elongated Man, Hawkman, the Atom, and Red Tornado. I remember those issues of Brave and the Bold when I was a kid in the 70s. Those guys helping Batman. And I'm like, okay, I need to replace them all. So I talked to some of my buddies, specifically Roy Johnson from Standard Comics and Darren Wiltshire from Temporal Comics, who are big public domain guys.
Yeah.
And I said, what do you guys think? And Darren came back to me with a whole list. He's like, hey, instead of Batman, do the Black Owl. Instead of Elongated Man, do Plymo, and so on and so forth. And the reason why I did that was because I felt that if I'm going into a Kickstarter, if I'm going into self-publishing with all original villains, if I go in with all original heroes as well, with a no-name guy like me doing it, people are going to be like, well, who are all these guys and who's this guy? Who's that guy right there? Who's Austin Huff? Who's Power Comics? So if I can go in with my villains and have them supported by public domain characters, recognizable names, and you know as well as I do, Michael, there is a market out there. There is a cult following, so to speak, of public domain superhero characters.
Absolutely.
You go on Facebook or any social media like that, they have groups that specifically, talk about, and all you can talk about on these sites is public domain superheroes.
I'm part of a bunch of them.
Right, exactly. And the two of us, right?
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, I have to go to market with some characters, some names that are recognizable, and that's why we did what we did. And then the creme de la creme was when I was having a conversation with Alan Weiss. This had to be close to 4 years ago now. And he was like, man, Austin, I really dig this project. I love the artists. I love that you turned them into villains. I love that you're using public domain characters. But then he threw this curveball at me. He's like, would you let me choose my villain and their chapter to draw their individual chapter and allow me to take the public domain character they're fighting and update their costume? And just, I mean, things are just spinning in my head. I mean, I almost fell out of my chair. He completely flipped the script for me.
Yeah.
Next thing I knew, Ron Wilson was taking Airman and reinventing him, and Alex Saviuk and Plymo. Alan took Twister and the Black Owl, and so on and so forth. And we came up with these modernized public domain heroes that are based in, you know, the 1940s, the golden age, but man, they look brand spanking new.
Yeah. Yeah. All the designs, I mean, the designs are just gorgeous. I was going through the digital copies of the books before the well, a few hours ago. I can't say right before the show, but a few hours ago, I was going through them, and I stopped reading at certain points because I was just looking at how. Or I mean, as an artist though, and a comic fan, I tend to do that in a lot of books. I have to go back to the beginning of the story and reread. But there's just something about the designs that I just and it, you know, like you said, it takes you back. Like you're remembering Batman Brave and the Bold books from the 70s. I feel that in these stories, you know, like I feel like I'm reading, you know, a kind of a classic book, but with a modern look to it, you know. And
man, that hits right here, because that's what we were going for.
It's
and another thing, man, I have to give a shout out to my buddy Mort Todd.
Mm-hmm.
He did the colors on almost all of the pages of the books. I mean, you know, he's just done such an amazing job. The lettering as well. Mm-hmm. You know, we have all these different artists. And, you know, Mort did almost all of the pages. There issue 2, his schedule didn't work, so we weren't able to get him to get issue 2 done. But he's done issues 1, 3, 4, and now 5. And I wanted to, because I had so much diversity with the art itself. You know, you go from like Pat Broderick to Jeff Isherwood to Ron Wilson to Mike Gustovich and so on and so forth. They're similar, but they're different.
Yeah.
The one common thread I wanted to keep in there were the colors and the lettering, and Mort Todd he's hit it out of the park in my opinion.
Yeah. I'll say this, and I think I told you last time, and I've said it on the show a bunch of. I'm colorblind. I see colors, but it's a shade blindness when colors get together. But I had no issue, like really telling. Sometimes you know, colors get muddy or they blur up for me that I can't tell what's what.
Right.
But the characters are colored so distinctively that I don't have an issue looking at the characters. I may not tell the color 100%,
right?
But they're you know, they're very vibrant colors, so I see them very well in the sense of looking at it. You know, like I'm not confused though. Well, that color's the same as this character. Why are they wearing the same costume? You know, I don't have that issue.
Yeah, Mort teased me the other day. He's like, Austin, after this is done, you better nominate me for some kind of award.
Listen, really, it is. I mean, I'm scrolling through this stuff and just wow. I mean,
I'm glad you like it. You know what, Michael? Guys like you, you're the guys, and you're the people that I made this for.
Oh, I appreciate it because I've been wanting something like this and didn't even know it. You know, so.
Right.
It's like I'm assuming if I'm just going to share. Let me get to the right monitor here. Hold on, which screen am I on? There we go. I just share screen. So here I'm looking. I'm assuming that this is part of the one of the covers.
That's actually a splash page.
Oh, splash page
in issue 5. That's Tom Grummett and Doug Hazelwood.
Because I love how like the team got together of everybody who was.
Well, you're gonna love this. Okay, so next spring we're putting together an origin story issue, kind of like the Bring on the Bad Guys that Stan Lee did with Marvel back in '75.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we're taking each of the 5 masters plus the mastermind behind the masters, and we're doing origin stories for all 6 of them.
Oh.
And it's going to take place at Black Owl's headquarters with the entire group of superheroes. And they're going to be going one by one, sitting. It's almost like they're sitting around a campfire, but they're actually, inside talking in the owl's nest, as it's called.
Yeah.
And they're going to be revealing the origin story. So they're going to be narrating each of the origin stories for all of the villains. And we're going to put it in one big graphic novel.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Can I say, just because you're talking about origins, one of the things I really enjoyed about your books is at the end, you have like the old DC Who's Who.
Yeah.
I mean, it's talk about homage. I mean,
right.
It looks like you're, and that's another reason why I say I think you're like a DC guy. I looked at that, I'm like, wow, that was just great stuff.
Well, the DC Who's Who pages now, I've got to give a shout out to my buddy Dakota Alexander. Dakota, born and raised in California, but now he lives in Japan, married, children, living in Japan. Amazing artist, just fantastic. Dakota Alexander, you'll find him on Facebook, Instagram. This guy, one of the first artists I hired, and all I wanted him to do were model sheets for me, kind of like turnarounds, almost like the Marvel Universe handbook pages.
Okay. Yeah.
And he's like, you know what, Austin? Why don't we do like something really cool, like Who's Who pages from DC? And I'm like, wow, you are speaking my love language, buddy. And the next thing I knew, he was doing a Who's Who page for Surreal Ordeal. Oh. And he took all of the data. I mean, I came up with the bio. We're doing height, weight, eye color. Where are they from? I mean, we put a lot of effort into the details in this thing.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be doing a Kickstarter for the Masters Omnibus, the trade, coming up in November, December.
Okay.
And one of the add-ons is going to be all of the Who's Who pages collected, all 16 of them, in its individual comic book with a wraparound Who's Who style cover done by none other than Pablo Marcos.
Wow. That just sounds so great.
You
should. I mean, but I'm just saying, that would be a Kickstarter alone, in my opinion.
Right?
Just to have that. Oh wow, that's fantastic.
Man, if I did a Kickstarter alone of all the things that I want to do as add-ons, because this is my celebration of the Bronze Age comics.
Yeah.
So add-ons on this future Kickstarter, when you buy the omnibus, you're going to be able to get a Who's Who, a wall calendar. I mean, all kinds of 70s stuff, Slurpee cups with all of our characters on them, a metal lunchbox, a jigsaw puzzle, a Ben Cooper Halloween mask for the Black Owl, all kinds of amazing Bronze Age goodness, buddy.
Oh, wow. I can't wait for that one too.
You're going to have to open up your pocketbook come November, Mike.
Oh, dude. Yeah, I'm going to have to
I'm going to
start saving right now. Do you guys need tutoring in art or whatever? I need some money. I mean, by the way, I do that. So if you guys are interested in comic tutoring and stuff, just let me know.
This is my guest appearance.
Sorry, man. I'm trying to save up for November.
You're a good man, Michael.
So I know. Well, I want people to still go out and get the older books, but can you give us? I know you gave us a gist of what the story is about, but can you give us a little bit about what has led up to issue 5?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there is a mastermind behind the Masters. So the Masters are 5 villains that I created, all inspired by my favorite artists of the 20th century. Mm-hmm. So you have Surreal Ordeal, inspired by Salvador Dali. You have Panorama, inspired by Ansel Adams. Monsieur Petit Renard, inspired by Toulouse-Lautrec. Graffiti, inspired by Keith Haring. And then you have The Clerk, inspired by Rene Magritte. Mm-hmm. They are all brought together by a criminal mastermind who wants them to commit the art heist of the century. And there are 5 different paintings he is looking to obtain, and they are in 5 different places: museums, public city hall, somebody's mansion in a private collection. And the superheroes find out about this, and in teams of 2, like Black Owl and Airman or Black Owl and Flyman, in each different chapter, they go after these guys to try to stop them. And in every chapter, they get their tails handed to them. They are defeated soundly. And issue 5 opens up with the heroes sitting together at the Owl's Nest trying to figure out who is the mastermind behind the Masters, because they all say there's no way these guys are that smart to come together and come up with a scheme like this. You know, they're master thieves, but they're not master criminals.
Yeah.
Who's the mastermind behind it? So they get together. Black Owl thinks he knows who it is, and that's when all the fun starts.
I am so looking forward to this.
Yeah, it's you know what, I know it's my story, Michael.
Yeah.
You know, and I know I'm really, what's the word I'm looking for, Michael? Come on, Michael, help me with the word.
I don't know.
Biased.
You're biased. Yes.
I'm biased. This is my story. It's my baby. I love it. You know, I think it's a great story. I think it's worthy to be made into an animated film. You know,
I totally agree with you there.
Wait till you read the 5th issue. Oh, and on top of that, when you buy the collected works, the omnibus in that final Kickstarter coming out in the winter, there will be a special issue 0 that is going to be the prologue to the first 5 issues. So
wow.
You're going to see what was the main event that led up to all of these dominoes falling.
Wow, this is great. I get excited for stuff like this.
I know
you do. Tell, but I'm just saying I don't know what I'm like kind of in awe of what to ask you sometimes, because I'm just sitting here thinking in my head, I'm so involved as a reader into your story that I'm it's like what you did when you were a kid. Oh, what's going to happen next issue? What are they going to do? Like I'm guessing everything in my head, and like I said, I'm probably wrong, but
it's kind of like, you know what it's kind of like, man? It's kind of like, you know, you get to meet William Shatner at a convention, and you say, "Hey, Bill, in episode 16 of season 2, in minute 37, I know that's how your mind works, Michael.
Yeah.
I know you."
Man, no, seriously, that's exactly what it's doing right now.
Yes.
I'm even looking here at your rewards, and let's go through them just real quick for everybody.
Sure.
So we got and by the way, this is one of the things I like about your rewards. They are not unreasonable. You know, there are certain people.
You mean I could be charging more?
There's some people, yeah, actually. But I mean, listen, you give like a almost a 50. It's 48 pages, I think, your books, right? About
number 5 is 52.
Yeah, so I mean, you're giving a lot of quality material, and you're giving them at reasonable prices here. That it doesn't, because there are some Kickstarters that I look at and they're like, well, here's a 32-page comic, I want $25 for it, you know, wow. And I'm like, I don't feel right donating or backing. I don't like the word donating, but backing on that. But like, yours are all totally great here. I mean, for $5 you start digital, $10 for the original, for a floppy, and then whatever cover you choose here. I mean, that's just really, really nice. And
we give everybody on the add-ons, Michael, we give everybody the ability, if they missed an issue, they can go back and get any issue of the first 4, any cover variant of the first 4, physical, digital format, whatever they want.
Yeah, no, that's great. And you got the Letterman cover there.
Oh, that was beautiful. You know what? Al Milgrom did a bunch of work on issue number 3. He inked Al Saviuk.
Okay.
And I reached out to him and said, "Hey, man, the Letterman Avengers cover, I think it was 233, like in 1982, something like that." I said, "I love it. Would you be willing?" And again, what better homage than to homage yourself?
Yeah.
Right? So Milgrom does the original, and I get him to do this one. and it's absolutely perfect. And it was his idea to take Letterman and make him old, you
Mhm.
know. And also, if you take a real close look at his beard, Flyman, my guy who shrinks, is in his beard.
A little hard for me to see on that one.
That was all. That was all him, man. Milgram, I think, is one of the most underappreciated creators in comics. He has done everything, man.
Yeah,
Everything.
yeah.
Pencils, inks. He's been editor for both DC and Marvel at different times.
No, you're right. I mean, yeah, I don't. Sometimes I don't think of that. All the stuff somebody's done. You know, they're usually known for like one or two particular things, and
Yeah,
that's your go-to there.
hey, we got a shout out from Mark Stokes.
Yep. It sure
Thanks,
feels
Mark.
Bronze Age story, like the comic. Yeah, that's why I'm excited about it. You know, I love this stuff here. You got, you know, you know, X-Men homage cover here.
Yeah, Bob Budiansky did that. I wanted to find something for him to do. I love he did so many amazing covers on the Treasury editions back in the 70s.
Yeah.
My favorite one he did was the Fantastic Four with Galactus, and it was just beautiful. So when I asked Joe if he had any other guys that might be interested in doing some covers, he mentioned Bob. I reached out to Bob. Pencils by Bob, inks by Joe.
Yeah, wow, it looks great.
What screams the Bronze Age more than supersized X-Men #1?
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah. Wow, man. Yeah, and then $25 for digital and $50 for the physical copies. I mean,
hey man, if you think I should charge more, I'm just gonna put a 50% surcharge on everything.
that's where you get them later in shipping. Okay, yeah, and then the physical gallery, I said 50 here, and then the retail, and this is always my favorite tier to see. Our retailer packs.
Yeah.
Because I love to see things like this in the stores, and I love to see stores, doing well and carrying independence.
Right.
So I love that you have two retailer packs, so you could do either 10 copies of issue 5 or what is this, 25? This is all the different covers, right?
Correct.
Yeah, all the different covers of 5. So, but yeah, and then you have the last one here to become being the master. So you'll have your picture. You'll be in a scene somewhere.
Yeah, we will draw you in issue number 0, which is that prequel we're going to be including in the omnibus package.
Cool.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah, I think we put out 5 options for 5 people to be backers of that. I think we already have sold 4.
Yeah, it says 1 left to 5. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've got about, I think, 13 or 14 days left in the Kickstarter.
Yeah, let's take a look. Let's go up to the top. 13 days to go. You've surpassed your goal. So you're meeting any add-ons, I'm assuming.
Yeah. What was the total? It was $65.50.
Yep.
That's about 20% higher during the same period of time for Masters issue number 4.
Wow, that's fantastic.
So we're a little under $1,000 from our next, stretch goal.
Mm-hmm.
And all of our stretch goals are all of these different pinups of the superheroes by Tom Morgan. I mean, if you don't know Tom Morgan's art, you better get yourself familiar with Tom Morgan's art. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, wow.
That guy, he is an amazing artist. He is an amazing creator to deal with. Just a fantastic guy. Fellow Chicagoan like myself. Moved out to California. He's working for Disney out there. The mouse.
Yep.
But if you keep scrolling down, you will see all of the pinups that he did eventually. And we've already passed the first 2 stretch goals. We have 3 more. I think we might be able to break 12,500.
Wow, there's a very good chance based on how you're doing right now.
Yeah, because a lot of the backers, Michael, are new. I want to say out of the 209, I want to say about 45 are brand new backers to Power Comics at all.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of people who backed issue number 4 that haven't backed issue 5 yet.
Well, I'm hoping you get them. I hope they watch this and remember to back. And I just noticed this cover. This is Secret Wars.
No.
No? Not?
No. Close.
Oh, because it looks like the one Doom is holding in the back.
Right. It is not, though. Now, this is another homage to the original homage makers. This is Al Saviuk and Jeff Isherwood tribute to themselves. Okay. This was West Coast Avengers Annual #1.
Oh, okay.
I think it was 1986 or 88.
I'll have to look that one up again because it really screamed Dr. Doom to me.
Right, sure.
On
but the mastermind there on the cover with his back to us, the original Avengers comic or West Coast Avengers, that was Quicksilver.
I know the cover in my head. I have to really think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's your Flyman.
Yeah, these guys knocked it out of the park, man. I can't thank these guys enough for all of the work that they did. This thing is coming to its conclusion, but one of the things that I'm working on behind the scenes is taking all of the individual heroes and spinning off their own comic books, or spinning off a couple of titles that aren't character exclusive, kind of like Wiz Comics or Action Comics or Amazing Fantasy, coming up with some titles like that, where we could put Plymo in one month and the next month would be Twister and so on and so forth.
Wow.
And here's a cool thing that I'm going to reveal to your readers right now. I'm currently working on a comic strip format for Black Owl, working on getting him syndicated.
Ooh, love that.
Yeah, because I think Black Owl, he is my great detective in the mold of a Dick Tracy, a Sherlock Holmes, a Batman.
Yeah.
And, still, those guys are still in the newspapers. You could pick up a paper and find the Phantom.
Yep.
You could find Flash Gordon. You could still find Dick Tracy. So I'm working with a cartoonist who will remain nameless right at the moment. And we're going to put together a 13-week run of comic strips and try to get that syndication on it.
Good luck with it. I'm a big strip guy.
Yeah.
I do both, but I always feel my work shines better in strips than for some reason than comic book style. But, yeah, I'm actually working on a project right now, or I haven't started it, but I'm deciding, do I want to do it in a strip format or book format? That's what that's why I haven't started drawing it yet. But once I do, but this is just gorgeous stuff here.
Now, that previous image was a splash page by Bob Hall. That opens up the book. And then the next page, when you scroll down, that's Bart Sears showing everybody together for the first time, confronting the mastermind.
Wow.
Or who they think the mastermind is. I don't want to reveal too much to you, Michael. I want you to guess.
I got to go back and reread these carefully because you said you left breadcrumbs, so I need to go back and.
There's a ton of breadcrumbs. Now I need to point out this to you real quick. This page right here is by Tom Grummett and Doug Hazelwood. Okay. And I give shout outs to all these guys, but I think Tom Grummett might very well be. Thanks a lot, Mark. Appreciate that. I think Tom Grummett, if I had to give out awards, I would give him out the MVP. He was the last guy I hired. He came in to save my rear end when an artist bailed on me on the 13 pages in issue 5 that are the big battle royale between the good guys and the bad guys.
Oh, wow.
And I was on the phone with Alex Saviuk, and I'm like, man, you're not going to believe this, but so-and-so, left me in a lurch. He's like, dude, you need to call up my buddy Tom Grummett. So he put me in touch with Tom. I said, Tom, I don't have any script written for these pages. We are doing 100% the Marvel way. The artist that bailed on me All he wanted was some direction, and all I put together was direction. Literally, the pages were blank except for this guy fights this guy. This is how it needs to start. This has to happen in the middle, and this is how it has to end.
Mhm.
I gave that direction to Tom Grummett. He's like, oh man, I love doing it this way. He turned in, and this is a true story. And I got to meet Tom for the first time a couple of weeks ago. He was in town in Chicago here at Fan Expo.
Okay.
And I got to tell him in front of his wife how much his work meant to me on this project. And when he turned in these pages to me, he turned them into me over a year ago, Michael. I've had these pages for over a year. I didn't have any script written. It took me over a year to write the script because the images were so perfect. I didn't know how I could make them better with words.
Wow.
Look at this page. What did I put on this page? A couple of word sounds and like a dialogue balloon that barely takes up a square inch.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, if you read all of the issues of the Masters up to this page, you don't need words on that page. You just look at it and you say, I know exactly what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. I love the book flying in the background there.
Yeah. But Tom, you know what? Everybody is an MVP, but Tom, man, he saved the day.
Yeah. It looks great. Yeah.
And I got to give a shout out to Alex Saviuk to put me in touch with him, because if it wasn't for Alex. And then, of course, we have all of our advertisement tributes.
These I loved.
I know you do.
Everything. I mean, I think I told you on the last time you were on, I'm a huge fan of like old ads. I'm a huge fan of like food mascots, like, you know, and to see these little ads going throughout the book, I'm like, how fun is that?
Yeah, that was the brainchild of Mort Todd. He's like, oh man, you remember the ad for come see us at SeaWorld? Why don't we put the superheroes on skis and we'll have them come to Snow World? Then he throws Yukon Cornelius in there.
It's great.
Yeah.
And this is one of the like the Who's pages.
Yeah, that's probably the most pedestrian of all the Who's Who pages, because they're all civilians for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
But I couldn't show you the other 3 pages of the Who's Who, because one is a full page of the Mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other 2 are the full pages of the Masters with the Mastermind and the superhero group, which we have dubbed the Power Corps.
That is a great name. That is a great name right there.
Thanks. And I couldn't reveal the final maze from my buddy Joe Woes of Maze Tunes, because it's a maze of the face of the Mastermind.
This is great. I love his mazes. He's been on the show once.
You're all just going to have to wait. No, you're all just going to have to buy the comic.
Don't worry. It will happen here. And then Being Zero that you were talking. And then these are your add-ons here.
Yeah.
Back issues 10 to 20. A trading card set.
Yeah, the buttons, the stickers. We're doing the action figures again. All kinds of Bronze Age stuff.
Yeah. I'm really loving the buttons, the looks of those.
Yeah. I appreciate the kind words, Michael.
Then you got the prints here.
Yeah, 2 of my buddies, Luke Dobb and Daryl Young. They're 2 of my best friends. I've collected their art for years. I told them when I started this project they needed to create images of my characters in their style. And, again, talking about knocking it out of the park. Yeah. I have them. Where I'm sitting right now, I'm in front of the Power Comics wall, where you can see the comic book covers behind me, all framed for the Masters and also Super Joe. But across from me, directly across, and then over to my left, are my Daryl Young and Luke Dobb walls, where I have no fewer than 24 framed prints that they have done for me, including all of my Masters characters. So the 6 villains and the 6 heroes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got some really really beautiful stuff here.
Yeah, we've got some original art as add-ons as well, and I think I priced it pretty reasonable. I think $4.50 a page.
Yeah, that's what I think you said. Yeah,
I think that's pretty reasonable. I mean, you have Ron Wilson with Joe Rubenstein, Greg LaRoque with Joe Rubenstein. Now, Greg LaRoque, there's another guy who came in. Talk about an MVP. We had an artist who, unfortunately, he had some personal problems, so we let him step down. And Greg came in, did an amazing job on issue number 2. Amazing job.
yeah.
Joe Rubenstein inked a bunch of his pages. So did Alan Milgram. And then I believe we've got that's Val Merrick inked by Joe Rubenstein. Are you seeing the Joe Rubenstein theme? Right?
Yeah, totally. Wow.
Yep. And then the last page, I believe, is a Bob Hall pencil and ink by Bob page.
Beautiful.
And now you've got coming up the Tom Morgan original art, and then the pinups as well. And I think I priced the original art very reasonable. I think $150 a page.
150, yeah, per.
Yep, we
Someone
already
took his arrow already. That I just going into public domain. I've always been a fan of the arrow.
Yeah, I can't pick a favorite of these that Tom did. I mean, one day I love Airman the most. The next day I love Flyman, and you know. But we've crushed through 2 stretch goals already, 2,500, 5,000. We're only about 950 away from 7,500 with 2 weeks to go. At this point, with issue 4, I want to say we were probably at $5,300 or $5,400. So we're already about 20% higher than what we were before. I really think we've got a shot to break 10. I wouldn't be shocked if we break 12.5.
I wouldn't be either. Wow. This is just beautiful. I love the Airman design.
You know, the most important thing when it comes to Kickstarters, Michael, if there are people who are watching the show who are thinking about doing a Kickstarter, is that they have to realize that just because somebody likes your post on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Twitter, that doesn't translate into dollars on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Okay? Just because somebody can like your post for free doesn't mean they're going to open up their checkbook or their wallet and buy a comic book from you. So you really have to focus on the people who are on Kickstarter. We have done 4 or 5 successful campaigns, 4 for the Masters and 1 for Super Joe Unlimited, which is actually going to print in the next couple of weeks and will be shipping October 1st. And you have to view Kickstarter as its own social media, Michael.
Yeah.
You are able to collect all of the data of all of your backers, and you have to treat them as a social media platform unto itself. So you need to constantly be keeping in touch with them. I have found that most people on Kickstarter don't even have a Facebook account.
Really?
They get most of their information from Kickstarter itself. So you have to keep track of their email addresses. You have to keep track of their names and their home addresses and their phone numbers. And you're not calling these people on the phone, but you're reaching out to them via email with some kind of a mass email program like a Wix or a MailChimp, something like that.
Yeah.
And you have to let them know that you haven't forgotten about them, that you're still doing things behind the scene, and you can't wait to show them what you have for your next Kickstarter. And you need to touch them every couple of months, every 2-3 months, and email. One of the things that we're working on now is a newsletter for all of the backers for all of our Kickstarters, because we're doing so many things. You held up that A Kid in a Comic newspaper.
Yes.
We have 3 different strips in A Kid in a Comic.
In this one, right?
Is that the brand new one?
This is the brand new one. This is
we
where
have 3 of them.
I haven't read it yet. I haven't had a chance to sit down and just enjoy it. But
we have 3 strips in there, Michael, and 2 of the 3 strips we are using A Kid in a Comic, the 7 strips that we're going to be doing in this series for A Kid in a Comic. We're going to be using those to launch Kickstarters for those titles as full-fledged comic book series.
Nice.
So we're doing a horror strip for A Kid in a Comic called Dead of Night, which actually gets its start in the Masters issue number 2. You will recognize characters from the Masters issue 2 in Dead of Night. It's a black and white horror strip. We have a full color strip called Tales from Ultra City, which is the brainchild of my dear friend and my vice president of words and images, which is an unpaid position, by the way. And he's had this thing in his head, kind of like I had the Masters in my head for 25 years. He's had the same. And it's kind of like a spoof on the Justice League or the Avengers. It's a comedy, but it's all about superheroes. And, hilarity ensues. It's a really funny strip. And we're going to use A Kid in a Comic to launch a comic book series called Tales from Ultra City. And the third strip is another horror comic. So we're like really spreading our wings, man. We're doing superheroes. We're doing comedy. We're doing horror. We're doing science fiction with Super Joe Unlimited. But the third strip in A Kid in a Comic that we're doing is called Conrad and the Demon. So one of my dear friends, George Adamczyk, who is a short story writer extraordinaire. This guy, he's got about 6 or 7 short story anthology books. I've gone to him a couple of times and said, hey, you got anything that you think would translate into a comic strip for A Kid in a Comic?
Yeah.
And we did the Halloween Closet in series 1 last year. And this year we're doing Conrad and the Demon. And we recruited Keith Wilson, phenomenal artist, to take care of all of the pencils and inks. And you'll see when you pull it up, it's a great strip.
Yeah, I was just seeing the artwork. The artwork's great, but I'm gonna hopefully sit down this weekend and finally be able to read, cover to cover.
Right. So we're doing all kinds of things. So when it comes to keeping in touch with your consumers, your backers, your base, right? The people who pledge, who give you money, getting out emails to them. And again, I go back to the whole, I want to put together a quarterly newsletter because I want these people to know, hey, I'm still around. I know you're not on Facebook. I know you're not on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but we're still out here. We're thinking of you. And we're doing all kinds of different things. We've got suspense and superheroes and horror and mystery and science fiction and you name it, we're doing it.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you're able to do all this. This is fantastic. And I mean, the team that you got, just amazing. I'm going through it right now. I mean, I honestly, I don't know what to say about the team, except, you just got a bunch of superstars here.
Yes.
This is,
they are the Masters.
Yeah, they really are.
Yep.
It's one of those things I really don't know what to say. It's just so great that you have all these people, able to help you out.
Yeah.
Here,
Yep.
I think some of my warm-up drawings tomorrow might need to be some of your characters.
Hey, and post them in the Power Comics group on Facebook.
I will. I'm a member.
I know you are.
So yeah, no, this is totally great. Now you were talking about some other comics that you do. I noticed you had the one Super Joe's. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Super Joe is inspired by the defunct toy line that Hasbro came out with for only about a year or two in the late 70s, 77 and 78. So in between the G.I. Joe Real American Hero, which was in the 80s,
yeah,
and the original G.I. Joe Adventure Team, they stopped doing the Adventure Team in 75. From my understanding, it's because, the Vietnam War wasn't really popular, right? It wasn't really an in thing to be a military guy. So they decided they're going to go the space route. They reintroduced the 12-inch G.I. Joe in 9-inch format. and they put him in space. I mean, everything was space back then, Michael. Star Wars, Moonraker, James Bond, The Black Hole. Everything was going to space. Battlestar Galactica, Buck Rogers. Well, Super Joe didn't do a really good job in space. And after 2 years, they canceled the toy line. But then what happens in 1981? Ronald Reagan gets inaugurated. Everybody's patriotic again. And in 82, G.I. Joe, a real American hero, 3 3/4 inch action figures are introduced. As they say, the rest is history.
Yeah.
So Super Joe was a lost toy line.
Interesting.
We were able to get the license approval to do this comic book through somebody who grabbed the trademark and the copyright for it, because Hasbro let the thing lapse back in the early 80s.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're doing small runs of this. And we're taking this in all kinds of directions. You're going to open up this book, Michael, and you are going to see images of toys that you haven't seen in decades. And you're going to be, holy cow. We have put this issue together in such a way that we can actually go in a dozen different directions after this issue comes out. So we've got all kinds of story arcs plotted out, and the next 3 books actually written.
That's awesome. That is Now, has this been published? I don't know. Hasn't been.
We did the Kickstarter last summer.
Okay.
We had some technical difficulties on it, so it was delayed for quite some time. But it is completely finished as of today. Okay. It's going to be at the printer in a week, and it should be shipped by October 1.
Okay. Awesome.
Yep.
And is there a way to get it if you haven't backed the Kickstarter?
Absolutely. We put it as an add-on, and all its variant covers on the Masters number 5.
Awesome. That is great, because this sounds like something it would be right up my alley as well.
Michael, we again, it was like go big or go home with this.
Yeah.
This might be the only issue we were able to do, and I'm telling you, Scott Pierce and I wrote this. We recruited Stephen Butler to do all of the interior art.
Fantastic artist.
A fantastic artist, absolutely. And he had these toys growing up. He couldn't wait to jump in. You turn the pages, and you're looking at pages that are like, oh my God, this is every toy from the toy line on these 2 pages opened up together. How did they do this? The colorist, Jim Brown, he did hundreds of issues for IDW of G.I. Joe, a Real American Hero.
Yeah.
I wanted to let the G.I. Joe people, the Real American Hero comic book crowd, faithful, I wanted them to know that I was paying attention to, the history of the G.I. Joe comic book. I brought in a bunch of cover artists from G.I. Joe to specifically work on covers. Bob Hall recreated his issue number 4 cover for us. We brought in Nitho Diaz and Ron Johnson and Brian Shearer and Robert Atkins. We brought in all these guys to do covers for us. And then we got Justin Birch to do all the lettering, and he knocked it out of the park as well. I mean, you open this thing up and it slaps you in the face.
It just sounds like it. That's something I need a copy of as well. This is gorgeous stuff, man. Everything just looks. Everything that you're putting out just screams, Michael, open your wallet.
Michael, give me your money.
Yeah, it's a whole. You're First of all, you're creating comics that I think, the way I look at you as a company, just not as Power Comics, but just you as a person, is you're saying, what comics did I love? What comics would I want to see that pay tribute to what I love?
Right.
And then you're hiring the people who either helped bring some of that to life or can create the world in the same way that you envision it. You're hiring people bringing your vision to life in the way you're seeing it. You're not having issues with well, this guy isn't working the way I want him to. These look like labors of love for the artist. I see it in the artwork.
You are so right on that. And I'll give you the best example I can think of at the moment is Stephen Butler, a guy that you absolutely love his work. When Stephen was putting together these pages, we would talk on almost a daily basis. And all of a sudden I would get images in my inbox on Facebook Messenger. And he would be like doodling and drawing all of these different toys and toy lines and action figures from our youth, because he grew up, we're the same age. He grew up buying the same toys as I did. So he's like, oh my God, I had, the Shield from Super Joe, and I had, Darkon, and I had all of this stuff, and I had Sucker Man, and I had Electro Man, and on and on and on. And it was just, I tell you what, some of the images that I have that I haven't been able to reveal to the public, just chef's kiss, man.
I could imagine. Before I forget, though, I could just take it over up here. I don't know if it'll go. Let me just bring it all the way up to the top. I forgot to drop the link in the comments.
Oh my gosh.
So we've been talking about this awesome Kickstarter here, but for you guys here, going into the comments, if you haven't backed this already, please go. This will go to Facebook, Instagram, Kickstarter, not Kickstarter, not Instagram. Was it Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch? I'm on.
Hey, Michael.
But, yeah.
I don't know if you know this. I just figured this out like a couple weeks ago, but there's a little icon underneath that green bar, all the way on the far right. If you click that, it opens up, and it's a tiny URL page.
Yeah, it was an embed. It was an embed code.
Yeah. If you should be able to copy that and paste it, I believe.
Yep. Instead of the big one, you want the smaller one. There you go. It's in there now.
I never realized that, and this is my 6th Kickstarter.
Yeah, I've looked at a lot. I'm like, oh, well, there's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's email, and there's embed. I'm like, I don't need to embed. That's the embed. So
hey, refresh the page. Has anybody bought anything in the last hour?
Let's find out. Hold on. Cancel. I accidentally was going to reload this is the problem when you have 3 monitors.
Right.
Okay. I'm on the right screen now. Nope.
Unfortunately. God, Michael, you're letting me down.
I'm so sorry, man. It's my fault. Yeah. Usually is. Anyway, let's wow. I don't know what else to ask you, man. This is looking great. I'm excited for you here.
We did we every issue, every Kickstarter for the Masters, all of them have received Projects We Love status on Kickstarter.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Congrats on that.
Yep. I love it when they share the love.
Yeah. I'm thrilled that you guys are getting it. I'm thrilled with everything you're doing. I'm honored to be in a paper with you guys. The
honor is all ours, Michael.
I mean, it's just, it really, I mean, I knew you guys were in there. I didn't know what was yours because, like I said, I haven't had a chance to really look around at it and see what's going on. I'm hoping to sit down one day soon this weekend, maybe Sunday, my morning coffee, and just read the comics. It's I mean, all the stuff in here looks great. Looks great. A lot of great artists and writers.
Yeah. John's done a great job with that public.
Yeah. And I got to send John some emails. I got some stuff I want to send him. But yeah, no, it's wow. Yeah. Anyway.
Good times, brother.
Yeah. I think we're going to wrap up because I honestly have no clue what else to ask you. All you're doing is getting me excited to not only read your comic, but to draw. I want to go draw some of your characters now.
You're speaking my love language, brother.
I want to, and by the way, that's how I wind down the night. I'll get into bed. I have my sketch pad, and I'll just doodle and sketch.
I usually get in bed and watch old episodes of The Twilight Zone.
That's fun too. I will put something on my iPad.
Yeah.
And I'll watch. My wife and I just finally binged the Tulsa King because the new series starts, in which I'm a big Stallone fan. That was amazing. I love, like mob movies and stuff. But yeah, I've been watching a lot of old, usually a lot of old movies, like on Tubi. I'm
Yeah.
going for like the
Eight.
yeah, like that's what I've been doing
That's all.
a lot lately. And I've been watching on, is it the Peacock app? Old $6 Million Man episodes.
Oh my goodness.
So that, which by the way inspired a story for me. So like I was working on a story for a long time, and I'm like, I don't know how I want it to go, and then I watched a bunch of old like 70s shows, and it was watching an episode of the $6 Million Man, and it was like a line that he said, and I'm like, that's it. That's how my comics go.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Excuse me. It's funny. I'm working on an anthology series, and it's kind of it's in tribute to the Twilight Zone. So every comic will be a different story.
yeah.
And so I'm on television or on my TV watching Twilight Zone or The Outer Limits or One Step Beyond, or like found footage films like the Blair Witch Project, things like that.
Yeah, that's great stuff. But speaking of the Twilight Zone, a few months ago, I think it was, I was at Kineticon, and I met one of the people who's part of the Rod Serling, like society, I think it's called. He writes stuff. I actually have one of the magazines somewhere, but not this weekend. I believe it's next weekend. In Rod Serling's hometown, I think is it Binghamton? I don't remember. It's somewhere like northern New York. They're doing like a whole thing. They're giving him a statue.
Really?
There's going to be a whole like weekend of festivities.
Let's go.
I think it's the 13th, 14th, and 15th. I would love to go.
Let's
I
go.
I actually was going to try to draw something for it, and I just never got the time. But
Michael, I think the Twilight Zone is the single most important television show of all time.
I would probably agree with you. It's up there for me too. It inspired so many other things that came out of it, horror movies, other stories.
The key thing for me with that show is that it is timeless. And what I mean by that is, you put on an episode today, any episode, pick any episode. My favorite is Monsters Are Due on Maple Street.
Oh, I love that one.
Put that episode on today and watch what happens, and think to yourself, and you could be, and I raised my 3 20-year-old sons now, right? I'm a little older these days, but I raised all of my boys who are now in their 20s on the Twilight Zone. And my youngest one, he's the most keen observer of all of them. And he's like, holy cow, Dad, Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. That was like 60 some years ago. That could have happened today.
Yeah.
That's why the Twilight Zone is the most important show of all time. You watch however many episodes they made, like 200, some ridiculous amount. Any of those shows, you think it is a case study in human behavior.
Absolutely.
And it is applicable to any generation, to any century in time.
I'll just say this about the Twilight Zone, just because you brought it you brought up my favorite episode.
Yeah.
And to this day, if I watch it in the dark, like if it's nighttime, still scares the hell out of me. And it's The Howling Man.
Oh my gosh.
I love that transformation of the guy into the devil.
Yes.
At the end.
Yes.
That is how I've envisioned the devil since childhood.
Right.
Since seeing that, it has scared the heck out of me.
Yeah.
Watch it in the right mood, and that's all I think about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. That's a scary episode, man. That dude goes to the castle in the middle of the night. It's pouring rain, and he's with all these monks, and you're like, what is going on? And why is there somebody howling?
Yeah.
That's a great episode.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, I love and I'll watch it. I'll sit, and I know I'm going to be freaked out, and I know I'm going to freak out later.
Right.
But I will sit and make sure I watch that episode.
Yeah. So many good episodes. Yeah. People try to rank them best to worst. I would take the worst episode of the Twilight Zone over the best episode of Outer Limits or One Step Beyond, or even Night Gallery, which is the show that he did in the 70s, right?
Yes.
So Twilight Zone, again, it is timeless, man. It has no peer.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have to agree with you. I've always, I didn't look at it the same way as you did until now. I look at it, I was always looking at it from a storytelling point of view. And as the storyteller, I didn't see it as a time. I just saw it as, wow, this is really good. And I see how it inspired things that came later that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
And I'll trace it back. Like I'll watch them and be like, yeah, no, that was great when they did it on the Twilight Zone. Yeah.
I think they're all on Freevee, if I'm not mistaken. And now you need to go back and start from episode 1 and watch them with a different set of eyes.
Yeah, I have watched that series countless times, and I don't remember. I might have the DVD collection. I have to look.
Oh,
but
physical media. Yes.
Oh yeah, before streaming, I had my closet behind me literally has over like 500 DVDs on the top shelf.
Oh.
Majority of them are all cartoons. A lot of the Hanna-Barbera stuff that came out, like Space Ghost and
nice,
all those things. Like, I'm number one, I'm a huge Toth fan, and I love his designs.
Oh, absolutely.
But I just you can't find them anywhere.
No.
And the Boomerang app, which didn't have like Space Ghost, that's like all on the MeTV cartoon thing.
Right.
But the Boomerang app, I heard is shutting down, which I subscribe to.
Really?
And they're all going to be going on the Max channel. So I don't know how that'll work and how they're going to push it, but yeah, all those old classic cartoons are coming to Max. So don't know when they're going to say it, but
right,
like, when they put them up, but I'll be happy I can watch them a little bit more. I love all that old stuff. You're talking about G.I. Joe, Real American. That was my era of toys. I had like literally outside of the vehicles, I probably had like every figure except for like maybe 5 to 10 something. It was.
I am a diehard Mego guy. Diehard. Yeah. Right. That's the hill I die on. And yeah. I'm going to tell you right now, the single greatest action figure line of all time is a Real American Hero. There's no doubt in my mind.
Really?
Oh, yeah. My brother is 7 years my junior. So he is 47, 48, something like that.
That's my age. I'm 40.
Right. Exactly. I remember I was, out of the collecting scene when he started doing the G.I. Joe thing. And I'm like, oh, my God, their elbows bend, their wrists turn. This is so much better than Star Wars. Yeah. And every year, more and more, the vehicles, the play sets. Yeah. I don't think the G.I. Joe, A Real American Hero, by, who did it? Hasbro, right?
Hasbro, I think, did it, yeah.
I don't believe it's met its equal. I think it's like the Twilight Zone of action figures.
Yeah. I mean, the figures were great. Although you lost a lot of thumbs putting a gun in the hand. They would pop off.
Sure.
But
problems.
Yeah.
That's why they invented crazy glue, Mike.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was a fun line. I watch. I still occasionally go back and watch the cartoon series.
Yeah.
It's I mean, but that was me. That G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, that was all my era of cartoons and action figures.
Yeah.
Mask, whatever all those things were.
Yeah, the action figure lines when I was a kid, of course, anything Mego, specifically World's Greatest Superheroes, Mattel's Big Jim, and Hasbro's G.I. Joe, the Adventure Team. Those are the big ones for me. And, of course, Star Wars. We can't leave them out.
I had a lot of those, too, yeah.
I was 8 or 9 when they first released the action figures. And, yeah.
Yeah, I lost so many of those.
Oh, my gosh.
I was one of those kids who would play with them in the snow and recreate Empire Strikes Back as much as I can. Oh. And then my brother would go over them with the lawnmower in the fall.
Wampa.
Yeah, or in the springtime, yeah. So.
Right.
Yeah, I love that stuff. But yeah, no, those were all my all the toys. But yeah, I mean, but listen, that's great. I know it came out of like the Super Joe's conversation, but yeah, you're gonna make me reminisce and maybe go watch some old cartoons of my favorite toy lines now.
Right. Or you might like go out to the store or eBay and spend a crap total of money, and all of a sudden I'm getting emails from your wife. Austin, you're never coming on Michael's show again.
Well, no, you have to come back in November to
Oh, I
talk
will.
about your show, and the money that I'm saving now is for the November
I love it.
project.
I
You
love
know,
it.
so
Michael, you're the best.
thank you so much.
Hey, man, thanks
Anyway,
for having me, brother. I really appreciate it.
yeah, no, it was fun. Always a blast chatting.
Always.
And yeah, you guys go back this on Kickstarter. The link is in the comments, and yeah, I mean, I guess that's it. And don't forget to
Power
read my,
up.
yep, power up. I like that. I was going to say read my comic, the Wiz comic, on both Instagram and Facebook. But yeah, power up. I like that ending better.
Power
All
up.
right, all right, guys. We'll see you later. Bye.
See ya.